All right. Thank you for joining us for this episode of East Valley Business, the podcast. I am joined by Charley Freericks, who is with Catellus. He is the Senior Vice President heading off Novus Innovation Corridor. For those of you that don't know, that are in and around Tempe, why don't you tell us a little bit about Catellus and maybe some of the highlights in your personal career as well as Catellus?
Great. So let's start with Catellus because that's a fun tale. So Catellus been around a long time, 1984.
Okay.
They were the result of a railroad merger that didn't merge. The analyst told them, hey, take all this real estate out of these two railroads and put them over here in a company. They formed a new company and it became Catellus a year or so later. And then they had a 30-year run as a developer of vast amounts of industrial and office space, some mixed-use areas. And then in 2004, they were sold to Prologis, which is a big real estate investment trust. And in 2011, the group that currently runs Catellus bought the odds and ends, I call it, but a lot of real estate that wasn't office or industrial.
Yep.
So mixed-use, retail, shopping centers, that kind of stuff. They bought that and it became a private company in 2011. And in 2013 or 14, they were selected to be the master developer of Novus Innovation Corridor. I competed against them with my prior employers. I was a little upset they won and beat us out, but it turned out okay for me.
Can't beat them, join them, right?
Yeah, exactly. My background's pretty straightforward. I graduated in May of 1983 at this fine institution that I'm now working with.
Wonderful.
ASU. And I actually went to work in the real estate business before I graduated in March. And so I spent 7 years in brokerage working on business parks, industrial parks, corporate headquarters, regional headquarters. 7 years with a company that no longer exists that had a lot of land and business parks and industrial sites. And then I spent 19 years with DMB here locally doing master plan communities.
Yep.
Mostly suburban on the edge. We did Centerpoint downtown Tempe. It was our first big project.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, great project for the company and for Tempe, I think. Long before I got there, but great project. And I finished it up. We liquidated it later. And then DMB changed direction. I left there in 2016, was trying to figure out what to do next. And Catellus had won the Novus job, and they were short some manpower. I got a phone call and I got to join up and do my first true urban from the ground up mixed use development. So it's been pretty exciting for me.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Let's talk a little bit about Novus. For those that don't know, mixed use is an understatement for the project. But how would you describe Novus, and what can people come to expect?
You know, it's a great question. I should have started with thanks for having me today. I'm excited to be here. So Novus, ASU, under Dr. Crow's leadership, was rapidly expanding its student population, and it became clear they were outstripping their state funding. And to have a great university in America, you need great athletics and great education and all that. And so Dr. Crow sent his team off back in about 2008 and said, hey, we got to figure out how we're going to subsidize the cost of athletics. And some smart people got brainstorming, and they created a private taxing district that's now called Novus. At the time, it was the Athletic Facilities District.
Right.
And all the state schools participated, and it gives them the right to lease their underutilized land, still own it. We're doing 99-year prepaid ground leases.
Got it.
And then redevelop underutilized assets. Like we had a golf course. It was great, but they cost money and they don't generate much revenue.
Very true.
And so instead, we're going to have what used to be a couple 100+ acres of golf course. We're going to have urban mixed use development on it. So everything we're doing, when I say urban, it's urban infill. And we're doing 3 single-story restaurant buildings right now around a park with the Fox companies, the Fox restaurants. Other than that, it's going to be 6 stories and taller, all along Rural Road. And then as you go down Rio Salado Parkway, it'll be 3 and 4 stories and taller.
Right.
So large floor plate buildings along Rio Salado, Creative Office Park. And so it's really, when I stand back and look at a big map or Google Earth, it's like, okay, we're completing the urban core of downtown Tempe. We're just wrapping around a mountain where it came around with Marina Heights, which is in our district. And we're just going to fill it up with great stuff, new office, new retail, mixed use, residential buildings with retail in the ground floor, hotels, great stuff. And it's not ASU use, right? ASU is not building labs and classrooms and student housing. It's commercial. It's just like downtown Tempe.
And I think that was a very important piece to share, because as folks know, with the property being ASU's and what the project looked like, I think there was a lot of thought process that this would be for ASU and not necessarily enjoyed by the rest of the community or the area.
Excuse me. Yeah, lots of confusion in the early days where people thought mostly we'd be building student housing.
Right.
We're entitled for about 4,000 multifamily units, and we could certainly, in theory, do student housing, but ASU deed restricted Novus against that. They want to control their student housing with their student housing partners. Right. And they told us, go get market rate units and do that. It's really fun. We're just scratching the surface, really. We've got about 800 residential units underway. We've opened 160 hotel rooms and 160,000 feet of mid-rise office and 150,000 feet of creative office space.
Very nice.
And so we're just getting started. We've got about just under 100,000 feet of retail underway. But the property is zoned for 10.5 million square feet plus Marina Heights. So 12.5 million plus or minus square feet of things. And
it's a fairly large footprint.
It's big. You don't find urban infill at 355 acres. Normally urban infill is 5 acres or 6 or 10.
Max,
Yeah. And so, though. So it's a pretty exciting concept, and it generates, when the buildings get built, they get taxed just like the county taxing system, but it's a private taxing district, and the proceeds, you mail in your tax payment and it goes to ASU Athletics to help pay for infrastructure and facilities. So they can build fields and the next, basketball arena and the Mullet Arena. It's helping pay the debt service on that. So it's really creative.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So tell me a little bit more. I guess I'll take a step back. What are we thinking timeline here? If everything moves the direction that it's continuing to move, obviously shovels are already in the ground. Things have already risen. You've got restaurants and retail that have already started to open. What is the time frame for completion, ideally?
It's a great question, but it's a little bit of a moving target.
Right.
So, for example, we have property on the east end, north of Rio Salado. We have a very large parcel there. And if we got lucky, we could do 2 more campus-style developments on that, the size of Marina Heights, which is 2.1 million square feet of high-rise.
Right.
And so there's days we dream about that. There's a lot of days we dream about that, actually. And so that would change the game, and we could absorb a lot of land quickly. Our agreement with ASU was a 20-year contract.
Sure.
And we're 25-year contract, excuse me. And we're 5 or 6 years into that. And we can extend if we both want to keep going.
Too, right.
And, I've been doing these a long time. The tail end of big master plans tends to take forever, it feels like, because you tend to get more urban and more complicated. But my guess is it's a 20 to 30-year project to build out. And then things will start gentrifying and turning over, and they'll have to redevelop. So it's a long haul.
Yep. Okay, so hopefully not touching too much of a sensitive topic. As you mentioned, you were with another company and Catellus won the bid. So what do you think positions Catellus to be best suited for this type of a project?
So it's a very fair question. So they had 2 or 3 things that made them stand out. One is they were doing the redevelopment of the old Austin airport.
Okay.
It's called Miller Airport. It's spelled Mueller. Gets mispronounced as often as my name. Thank you for getting my name right. And Miller was an 800-acre parcel a mile from the state capitol in Austin, just an amazing site. And the city moved their airport out into the county like Denver did, and had a competition, and Catellus won that competition. Catellus, coming out of the railroad business, got really good at cleaning up old sites. Railroads were dirty, industrial, messy things, and lots of cleanup happened. And they cleaned up all their own land, and they started figuring out how to clean up other people's land and develop it. So Miller was a smashing success with the city of Austin. They redeveloped that. It's got hundreds of residential units, millions of square feet of office. It's got a children's hospital, lots of great stuff. And they did everything there in a super environmentally conscious way. Every building's LEED certified, many of them, including the first LEED Platinum grocery store in the country.
Wow.
Austin wanted to do great environmental sustainability work, and Catellus did that for them. So they were doing that, and they had a great success. And they partnered in 2011 when the company went private. Their financial partner is TPG, and TPG, the last time I checked, had almost $200 billion under management.
Yeah, they're doing all right.
So we've got the financial backing to build almost anything you could imagine. And ASU found that combination of skills, both the experience, the high quality of Miller, and the sustainability and the sponsorship, was a pretty compelling argument.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. So as we look at this project coming online, what impact do you think it'll have on Tempe? Obviously, you've seen the immediate impact so far, but as we look out 10, 20 years, what kind of impact would you say?
So our first two phases were Marina Heights.
Yep.
And just take that for a second, 2.1 million square feet, thousands of people working in that building. There's been changes. State Farm's downsized, Carvana's moved in, others have moved in. But it's a huge employment base.
Right.
And, for a guy developing retail space, 8,000 people, that's a lot of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and some beers after ball games and things. So we love that. Then we did the redevelopment of the Sun Devil Stadium, which is now the Mountain America Stadium. And that was a $350 million redevelopment of an antiquated football stadium. Yep. And so when you start tackling projects that size, you and I don't think this way most days, but the economic impact just of the construction, thousands of workers, millions of dollars in fees, all that stuff rippling through design and architects and landscape and landscape maintenance and all that. So the project's having a profound economic impact in its infancy is how I would describe it. And so I think that will continue. The other thing is Tempe's just done a fantastic job building the lake, drawing high-tech employment, and we're leveraging off of that. Our target is high-wage employers that do high-tech things and want to partner with ASU.
Absolutely.
And so we're going to continue that wave, and I think Tempe's just got a bright future in dominating in that part of the employment market here locally. If for no other reason than they open the spill gates this week, for example, and pump out thousands of graduates. Yep. And they do it in logistics. They're world-class logistics, world-class software engineers. It's amazing. It's not the ASU I went to from 79 to 83, right? And so employers want to be there, and they're there kind of with the catcher's mitt as people are coming out of ASU grabbing them. In the case of State Farm, they created custom curriculum so students graduating from ASU were perfectly trained, ready to go to work at State Farm immediately. And so there's some pretty creative and innovative stuff going on the employer side. We're adding 4,000 units of housing. Tempe's constrained on housing.
Yep.
You had Mayor Woods on here. He's been very clear. We got to get affordable, and we got to get a mix of housing in here. Yep. And our current project, we don't have a name for it yet. It's at the southeast corner of Rural and 6th Street, parcel 3G, not a very romantic name. It will be our first product with attainable housing. So workforce housing for and ASU employees that meet the employment criteria get first shot at living there. So we're trying to help offset ASU's impact on Tempe's housing. And if they don't fill it up, it's open to the market for people that meet the income requirements. So we will continue that as we add all these residential units. And then we're trying to complement Mill Avenue, which has been fun as long as I've been here. And it's got great restaurants. It's always got activities. There's a huge demand for hotels and all the activities that go with all the athletic venues at ASU.
Right.
And so we're trying to lever off of that. We're trying to be a little bit more of the professional destination, if you will, for the lunchtime crowd and dinner crowds. But we're going to do it all, and we'll complement. There's going to be plenty to go around for Mill Avenue and Novus Place.
I'm glad to hear that. So how would those that are listening, say businesses, small business, other businesses in the community, support Novus and maybe get involved? And if they wanted to learn more about the development, where would they go?
Great question. So novusasu.com, you can get one-stop shopping. So that's Novus, Novus, ASU.com, and they'll find us there. What I would tell you is the way Dr. Crow describes Novus, and I can't do it justice because he's such a great speaker, but he looks at Novus as a place where our employers there will hire interns. They'll hire grads. They'll hire grad student grads. They'll hire all the research capacity of ASU, and those companies will start small and grow in Novus. And so we hope small business will embrace that. You were just your team was just at an opening, a ribbon cutting for one of our latest restaurants, Nautical Bowls at Novus Place. That's a small business. It's a franchisee owned by a woman who's got a couple of them going here in town. And we need local people to support these businesses, and we need local businesses to keep coming and being part of it. We hope to grab big employers as well, as you do. But you got to have the little employers to support the big employers. It really is a great ecosystem, I think.
Absolutely. You stole the exact words I was going to use, a thriving ecosystem that has the small and large players, the workforce talent pipeline, which is a huge piece. Any parting thoughts? I know I've kept you a good amount of time today, but any parting thoughts either about Catellus, you personally, or Novus?
I'd just say this, we're obviously, you can tell I'm excited about Novus. It's just getting started. We've got more coming, in the fall. We've got the 3 Fox restaurants and 5 other restaurants to date. We've got 2 more in early phases of signing leases. So it's going to be a great destination starting this fall. It's good now. It's going to be great in the fall.
Excited about that.
Lots of activity, great dining, great food and beverage stuff, before and after games, graduation, business lunch, all that. So come see us, support our retail tenants. They need the support. And then keep an eye on us. We're the shape of things to come in Tempe. It's going to be very exciting.
Well, we're excited. I've talked with many on council and also within the city that's just a great nexus of your growth and the direction that the city has with their 2050 general plan 2050 and what that'll look like. So thank you for joining us today. I thought you might be breaking news on any new tenants, but I won't put you on the spot.
I'll leave you with this thought. Over Easy, our breakfast and lunch venue opens Saturday, May 11th. So please stop by and check them out. They're looking forward to serving customers. And then we're just happy to be part of Tempe. And it's a homecoming for me. I graduated from ASU in 83 and again in 94. Didn't spend much time in Tempe until about 6 years ago when I got down here full time. It's a great place, great city. We're really glad to be here.
It definitely is. Well, thank you for joining me today. Colin. Thank you all for listening. Stay tuned for our future episodes, and thank you for joining us.